You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
So if you're watching the news at all, you probably know that the debacle going on up in Washington is still going on, and into their 10th or 11th voting that hasn't changed other than get worse for the guy trying to become the leader. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about something else to do with Congress. And that is a new congressman or a congressman-elect who is waiting to swear in. He can't swear in until a leader is picked. But when he swears in, he's going to be doing something kind of unique. Now, according to the rules of Congress, you don't have to swear in on a Bible because the founding fathers understood that maybe the Bible's not your thing. Maybe you're of a different religion. Maybe you believe in other things, or maybe you don't believe in religion at all. So, Mr. Robert Garcia of California has chosen a stack of things to swear in on. The first thing he's going to swear in on is a copy of the U.S. Constitution. The second will be a picture of his parents that he lost to COVID. The third thing is his citizenship certificate, because he's a naturalized citizen. But the fourth thing, and this is the awesome one, is he has requested a copy of Superman #1 from the Library of Congress, and it's will be delivered and there for him to sign on. Then it will go back to the Library of Congress. But we have a U.S. congressman who's going to swear in on a copy of Superman #1 on a book that was basically about truth, justice, and the American way. Now, I know that saying has changed, but truth and justice are still kind of important. So, good on you, Mr. Garcia. And hopefully they're going to figure things out pretty quick and get you sworn in. So, stick around for the Dan Wickline Show. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. The Dan Wickline Show. I'm suddenly becoming Ed Sullivan. The big, really big shoe. The Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is January 5th, and we've got a great lineup today that includes not only this show, but What's in the Box and Space Cadets, which are both fun shows. And also, remember to hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, because we got a big announcement coming soon, and you don't want to miss it. You're going to want to be a subscribed member on YouTube. Even if you watch like it is through Facebook, take a moment, find our page on YouTube, become a subscriber, and you go back to watching it on Facebook. And then when this thing happens, you'll be involved. So keep that in mind. All right. So, hey, Ed, how you doing? Ed says if he got to swear in, he would pick Amazing Spider-Man or Amazing Fantasy number 15, of course, the first appearance of Spider-Man. The guy could also have picked Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman. So it's funny he picked Superman #1. Or maybe the Library of Congress didn't have a copy, but they should. I know that a lot of companies send one in automatically. I know some of the books I've written have gone to the Library of Congress because that's what some of the publishers I work with do automatically. I think you'd have to be cautious with that because the book you choose, whether you think about it or not, is probably going to send a message. Now, Superman #1, for an immigrant to the country and who's going to Congress, is a perfect choice because Superman is basically an immigrant. And yeah, that's an amazing choice. Now, say you picked Detective Comics #27. What's that saying about you? Or, oh, I don't know, Punisher #1. Or the Spider-Man issue where Punisher, I think it's like 128 or something, where Punisher debuted. Or what if you picked, I don't know, Daredevil #8, the appearance of the first red costume. I mean, there's a lot of choices you could make, and they would honor it the best they could. You could ask for specific Bibles and stuff like that. You could ask for a copy of the complete works of William Shakespeare. I mean, it really comes down to what you want. Ed says, I think Steve Geppi donated a lot of the comics from his museum to the Library of Congress, so they probably have all the books, big books. Yeah. Did that museum finally, did that close? Is that why you donated them? Huh. Interesting. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea. But again, yeah, Superman Red Sun, that would be an iffy one as well. Or a copy of the Manchurian Candidate, that would get your attention. JD says, I would ask to swear on a copy of Action Comics #1, then grab it and flee to a non-extradition country. Do you not think there wouldn't be guards around? Just saying. I believe the term you're looking for is wiry, like in the movie The Replacements. He's wiry. So, all right, let's hit some of the news. Again, someone has come out and made some statements about what's happening with DC Comics and saying that basically all Gunn and Safran have are like a 2-3 year plan and that Wonder Woman won't be part of it and all that stuff. Well, as soon as a story comes out like that from insider sources, the next thing you have to do is you go over to James Gunn's Twitter page and you watch him debunk all the BS. And of course, he debunks the whole Wonder Woman thing. They also said that some heads up at Warner Brothers, or the higher ups, that's the word I wanted, heads up. The higher ups at Warner Brothers are so enthralled with the new Flash movie that they're considering continuing going with Ezra Miller going forward. And again, Gunn is just like, none of this is, decided on, none of this is true. So I find that kind of interesting. But Gunn did say something really important in that they do have an 8 to 10 year plan, and that part of it is going to be announced before the end of this month. Now, I think that's a huge thing. Like the first couple of years are going to be announced by the end of this month. Now, that's important for one reason, is that just about all the current DC movies that have been in production or whatever are coming out this year. You've got Shazam! Fury of the Gods, you've got The Flash, you've got Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and you've got Blue Beetle. And other than, there's nothing in the main DCU after that. You've got this Joker sequel that's in production, and you've got Matt Reeves working on the script for the second Batman, but those are off on the side. So he really does need to get stuff out there so that things can get into production and get on the schedule. So yeah, they're going to have to start moving on stuff. Now, I know he's working on the script for the first Superman movie, and they're going to have to cast and stuff like that. And by the way, I did sit down the other night and just did some fan casting of my own for a Justice League team. And if you guys are interested, I'll tell you what that is in a minute. But yeah, he's got to get stuff out there. And he's telling us, well, you're going to get it by the end of the month. So within the next 26 days, we should have a much better idea of what's coming from DC under James Gunn and Peter Safran. So let's see, what did I miss while talking? Yep, the Gieppe Museum closed a few years ago. That's sad. I do like the idea of these museums. I know IDW has a museum down in San Diego, but anything that can showcase comics and the original art and stuff like that and the comics, that is needed, and I wish we had more, not less. Nick is reminding you guys to hit the thumbs up button if you haven't yet. Appreciate that, Nick. It says, sounds like you make the perfect politician. Take what you can and run. Yeah. Yep. JD would be a very good politician, though his anxiety probably wouldn't let him. He also says, for those of you who can't see, Nick, please hit that. Okay. Let's see. Ed says, I know what you mean. Gieppe was on my bucket list, but I waited too long. Yeah. Yeah. And there's some places I still want to go to that I haven't had a chance to. I'd love to go to the Football Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, though I'm a little less on that one. And I'd like to go to Edgar Allan Poe's house. So I don't want to go to New Orleans. I haven't been to New Orleans yet. So I've been to a lot of places. None of them were particularly. I used to be a computer programmer before I got full-time writing. And I worked for a company that made a software package that worked for the automotive aftermarket. And I would go to a lot of these little tiny towns because that's where these companies could buy big areas of land and big buildings and stuff. So I would go to like the outskirts of Chicago and the outskirts of Indianapolis. I did go to Oklahoma. I went to the bomb site in Oklahoma City. That was, wow, that was powerful. So we don't talk about that one as much since 9/11, but Ed says, I've been to the NFL Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Plus, I got escorted out of the NHL Hall of Fame. I don't even want to know what you did, but I salute you, man. That's great. All right, Jay says he'd like to hear my fan cast for the Justice League. All right. I worked on this the other night, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but I really felt like it'd be fun to make one. And what I wanted was a cast that could be around for a while. You know, I mean, Marvel started with Robert Downey Jr., and he was already was like 40 or 41 years old when it started. So the ticking clock started, but you had Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth, and they were younger. And I liked that Henry Cavill was like 29 or 30 when they started with him on Superman. So I kind of took that mindset of getting people in their late 20s to early 30s. And also, I didn't want anybody really big. Because if you're going to do an 8 to 10 year plan, you want to get people that you can bring in and put on long-term contracts that are going to look at this as a career building moment. Now, not everybody fits that category, but I think most of them do. And I just think that's the better way to go, because you get these people in, they're younger, and you can keep them around a while and tell your full story without having to break the bank. So you bring somebody in on a 7-picture deal, and you're going to pay them well, and they're going to have a steady income for that amount of time. But they also are going to be growing in the, their popularity is going to grow, and they're going to be able to do other movies and TV shows and stuff in between and make more money. So for somebody, an up and coming actor or an actor who hasn't really gotten to leading or, star level yet, this is a great opening. So, all right. Now, the first one here is not going to be a surprise because I think we mentioned him the other day. He's someone that a lot of people are looking at. He's probably the top choice right now for Superman, at least fan casting. Not saying, I don't know what James Gunn is looking for. I don't know if my thinking is the same as James. But this is, if I was in that seat, this is who I would pick. Now, that's not saying I wouldn't have hung on to the original cast, but if we're doing a clean slate, 7 characters, and the characters I picked, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Cyborg, Green Lantern, and I went with Hal Jordan because as much as I like Jon Stewart, I think you could grow to Jon Stewart, introduce Jon Stewart in a solo Green Lantern movie, but I think you should start with Hal and then Hawkgirl, because I always liked her on the Justice League animated series. She's grown as a character, and I think you really need a second female character. It's a total boys club until then. So Superman is David Cornsweet or Cornsweet. I don't know. There's got to be a better name, a better way to pronounce his name than Cornsweet. But he's currently on The Politician. He's 29 years old. He's 6'4", and other than probably needing to bulk up a little bit, and I mean a little bit, he's got the jaw, the look, the hair, everything you need for Superman. So that, like I said, we've talked about him, and at 29, you could definitely sign him for a 10-year deal and probably get a few movies out of him after that. Now, of course, you need a new Batman. And the Batman, I looked at a lot of different options, and there was a couple of people I looked at and I thought were kind of cool. Robbie Amell was one of the people that came to mind. But I came across this one guy, and I just really liked his acting background, but also age, build, and jawline. I think jawline for Batman is also very important. So besides the fact that they've really got to be able to act and all this other stuff, he needs to have a really good jawline. And this guy is 32 years old, and he's 5'11". So he's not going to seem too short, but Superman's still going to be tall. And I think Superman should be the tallest person in your group. Not towering, but he should be a little more physically imposing. So you bring in a 5'11" Batman, you still got a tall guy, and it's Alex Pettyfer from the movie I Am Number 4. I think he's got the acting chops. I think he's got the look and can carry himself really well. So I think he would make a good both Batman and Bruce Wayne. So I think he cleans up well, would look good in a tux or a suit. So I would go that direction. Plus, at 32, he's a little older. I think he's the oldest of the ones I casted because I think Batman needs to be just a little older than everybody. But I didn't want to go so old that, you can play him a little older, but I don't want to go so old that he starts aging out before everybody else. Wonder Woman was a tough one because you need that look. She's just like Superman. She's got to have the right look, build, and you don't want her to be tiny. You want an imposing person. And what's funny is that both the women I found to play Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl are both 5'10". So that's pretty good. But this is a woman named Courtney Eaton, and she's from the show Line of Duty. She's done some other acting, and she's got that right look. And you'd want to bring her in to do a read and everything, but I think I think she would be a good choice for Wonder Woman. And again, she's only 26 years old. And I kind of like the idea of Diana being a little younger because there should be a little naivete with Wonder Woman, but also intelligence and all this stuff because she grew up on this other island, on Themyscira. So you could go a little younger and have her, but carry herself with confidence. And I think that would be cool. So I went a little younger on her, but it was also the right look and feel for the character. The Flash, this guy is starting to blow up. So I started watching him back on the Shannara Chronicles, and he was on Arrow. And then, of course, he just played Elvis. So, and that's Austin Butler. And he's 31. He's taller than he looks. He's 6 feet tall. Now, I always thought he was kind of shorter, but then most of the time I've seen him, he's playing opposite of like Manu Bennett or guys like that. So, but he's 6 foot tall. He's got that slight build that you want for the Flash. And I think he's got that attitude. You see it probably better in the Shannara Chronicles, that you want that little bit nerdy, a little bit silly that you want for the Flash without it being so extreme like Ezra Miller does. I think Ezra Miller took it too far. So Austin Butler is my choice for that. Now, Cyborg, I really thought about this one for a while because I look at the history of Cyborg, the origin, and he's a football player. He's a quarterback. Well, again, you need an opposing figure to be a quarterback. And for me, I used to think Cam Newton would be a great Cyborg. He's got the physicality and stuff like that, but you want to go with an actor too. So this is the other young person. And again, he's supposed to be new to this. So coming out of college, it's a 26-year-old guy named Trevor Jackson from the show Grownish. And he's 6'2". He's got the build and look of a quarterback. You could totally see him playing on Saturdays or Sundays. He's got that Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton look about him. And you could totally see him with the Cyborg face on. And I think he would really pull it off well. So, and again, at 26, you kind of want Cyborg to be the younger in the group as well. Also, I think there'd be kind of a natural connection between Cyborg and Wonder Woman, which I've seen a lot in there. There's an empathy to Wonder Woman that really matches with Cyborg, who has lost so much so recently. Batman's lost a lot, but he's also kind of hardened himself over the years. Cyborg hasn't yet. So I definitely want to go younger on Cyborg. Green Lantern is probably the only other person that has a pretty good name at this point. I was thinking Dylan O'Brien. He's 31, 5'10". He comes from the Maze Runner movies. And I don't know, I think to pull off Hal Jordan, you need to have a cockiness about you and stuff. And that's something that I've seen O'Brien be able to pull off. And again, he's just a little older than most of them. I mean, so he's on the older end, but again, he's only 31, so he'd be able to stick around for a while. But I'd go with Dylan O'Brien. And then for Hawk Girl, again, as a Thanagarian, and you don't want to you want someone to carry herself in confidence because she's a true warrior. She's a badass. So who better than someone who was a regular on Vikings as a warrior? And that's Freya Mavor, who is also 5'10". She's 29 years old, and she has got the look and the build and stuff to be a total badass warrior like Hawk Girl. So that's where I'd go. Those are, I think there's still new enough castings. Maybe Austin Butler's a little bit past that now with how well he did with Elvis, but I think you can get all these people on long-term contracts and they would grow as a universe together. So that's what I was thinking. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like these people, if you had a chance to look them up, take a chance. Other than that, I'm going to take our first break, and then we'll come back. So stick around.
Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find a link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP.
Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join the experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Programming on the EXP is made possible by viewers like you, or your local comic shop, or that Kickstarter you backed, or the publisher you like, or comic industry professionals who want to share a message with the world. Really, anyone who wants to advertise with us can. If you're interested in seeing a product you know and love, or are creating, or are publishing, or are involved with, advertised here on The Experience, and having your message shared with our viewers, please reach out by scanning the QR code below or visiting our website and using the contact form.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Remember to hit the like and thumbs up buttons, and remember to subscribe because we got some big stuff coming up that you're definitely going to want to be subscribed with. This will be a high grade promotion, so you'll definitely want to be part of it. I've seen Ed said he picked Guy Gardner over Hal Jordan, and I love that idea. But I'd want to save Guy for kind of a contradiction to Hal. You know, I think, and it's kind of the same reason I didn't want Jon Stewart. Jon is very stoic, man of few words. Very, he's an architect. He's always thinking and then talking. He's one of those that, say in the fewest words possible. Hal is narcissistic and arrogant and thinks he's a fighter pilot. He's Tom Hanks Maverick from Top Gun. And I think that's a different personality where, the stoic thing is somewhere between, Jon Stewart's somewhere between Cyborg and Batman. And Superman is the corn-fed, aw shucks type, and the Flash is the awkward geek. So you have all these different types of personalities. And you've also got Hawkgirl, who is the let's kill everybody. So I think Hal is a different type of personality. Did I say Tom Hanks? Tom Cruise from Top Gun. His character of Maverick. Thanks, Nick. So yeah, I think Hal is a unique character in the Justice League, where the other ones are kind of like variations. JD says, I want them to do Jon Stewart, but cast Jon Stewart. That would be interesting. Yep. Jay says, Jack Quaid for Barry, Anthony Starr for Eobard. I like the casting, but I don't think Anthony Starr would do it. Because if you make your name as a supervillain, or basically a superhero that's pretty jacked up, you're playing Eobard Thawne isn't that different of a character than Homelander. So from an actor's point of view, you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to get typecast. If anything, Anthony Starr needs to go a completely different direction. He needs to be, I don't know, a detective or a cop or a romantic comedy or something, because right now he needs to open it up. Anthony Starr is Jimmy Olsen. Yeah, I think Anthony Starr, and I think just about everybody on The Boys need to go a different direction. Now, it's easy to look at that cast and go, oh, these people should be. And I'm not saying that once you play a superhero, you should never play another superhero. Chris Evans, great example. Michael B. Jordan. So it's possible, but both of them had done other things. Anthony Starr hasn't really done a lot. Homelander is kind of what's making him, and he does. And if I was a actor, I wouldn't want to be typecast in that role. And doing Eobard Thawne is the same role, for all intents and purpose. I mean, from a director point of view, an acting point of view, you're looking at the same thing. So he really would need to go a different direction. Yeah, Chris Evans, Johnny Storm was a completely different character than Steve Rogers. Plus, he had already done The Losers, and he was in the Cell Phone. He had proven himself in a bunch of different things. He was in that, was it Not Another Teen Movie or whatever it was? So he had done a bunch of stuff. He was also in Scott Pilgrim Saves the World, or Versus the World, I don't know. So Chris Evans had a good acting pedigree behind him. And then he took on one of the most difficult roles that I think Captain America and Superman are the two roles that are really hard to make interesting. Not impossible. When it's well written and well acted, they're great characters. But not everybody can pull that off. It's kind of like not everybody could play Mr. Rogers. Tom Hanks, absolutely. See, now I said Tom Hanks right this time. Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers made a lot of sense because there's a similarity there. But not everybody could play somebody that honest and open. So, and that was after his plastic surgery, so it was really completely different. Who had plastic surgery?
Chris Evans.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, look at it. Go back and look at his Fantastic Four face, and then Steve Rogers. It's completely.
Now, is this you just looking at pictures, or is this like there's reports and stuff?
It's one of those secret not secrets in the industry. If you know the right people.
Okay. Jay says, well, Anthony went from Xena to Banshee to The Boys, but I get what you're saying. Well, a lot of people went from Xena. Carl Urban was in Xena, and I mean, just down the line, they had a lot of actors. So, but no, Anthony is probably best known for playing Homelander right now, and yeah. So, all right. Wow. I didn't know we were going to get that much out of that topic. So last night was the debut of season 2 of The Bad Batch. Now, if you haven't watched The Bad Batch, let me catch you up a little bit. It's about a team of what's a good way to put it? It's basically a bunch of clones that were modified. So you know how you have the clone army, they're all based off of Jango Fett. Boba Fett is one of the clones. Well, all of the clones in the clone army were made to be exact copies, except for a small handful. There's something 99, is it? It's not Squadron, but it's this group that was made to be different. They have specialties. Like one of them is Wrecker, and he's made to be extra strong, and durable. Hunter is made to be a tracker and a leader. Tech was made to be really good with computers and stuff like that. And Crosshairs was meant to be a sniper. Well, they ended up, when Order 66 happened, their chips didn't work right. So they ended up not rebelling against the Jedis and stuff and realized what was going on. Clone Force 99. Thank you, Jeff. Clone Force 99. So in the first season, we see Order 66 happen. We see Crosshairs, one of their own, turns on them. They have another clone in their group who's joined them, named Echo, who was a regular on the Clone Wars series. And basically, we discovered that there were 2 clones made that weren't accelerated. There was an Alpha and Omega. The Alpha is Boba Fett. He was not made to age up quickly like all the other ones were, and he wasn't modified. He's just a clone so that Jango could raise him as a son. Omega, or if you watch the show and you realize there's a heavy Australian thing going on there, it's Omeeeeega. But Omega is a female clone, and there is something about her that's different. And it appears that perhaps she might be force sensitive or has something to do with that. And since she's a clone from Kamino, this might have something to do with Palpatine and how somehow he returned. Well, Dave Filoni seems to have taken on the goal of fixing everything that people hate about Star Wars. The Clone Wars was specifically to fix the prequels, and now he's doing stuff for the sequels, and the cloning and stuff is all a big part of it. I think Grogu is part of that. Well, I think Omeeeeega is supposed to be part of that too, but we haven't got there yet. But the whole thing was they took Omega and they were protecting her while everybody was hunting her, and they're known as the Renegades. And the whole first season is them trying to run and stay on the move. And their own guy, Crosshairs, is hunting them. And we also see what happens to Kamino. It gets completely destroyed at the end of season 1. So the whole cloning base that we saw in Kamino in the prequel series and all that, gone. But we see one of the head cloners is taken by someone who's wearing the same uniform and patch as the cloning guy in the Mandalorian series. So they are tying those things together. And again, I think it has to do with Palpatine coming back, because they're still trying to fix that. But so that's the setup for the Bad Batch. You have basically these 4 clones who are all specialty. It's kind of like the A-Team. And then you have this young girl with them, which is Dave Filoni's thing. He likes to introduce a young character into a group of adults and have them grow up, and you don't necessarily like them in the beginning, and they grow on you. And this is what he's done with the Clone Wars with Ahsoka. That's basically the Mandalorian with Grogu, and now he's doing it here. It's even what they did with Obi-Wan Kenobi, in a sense, by bringing in a young Leia. So they're doing that format, and now we're getting into season 2, and we'll talk about the first 2 episodes right after we take our second break. So stick around.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Who would win, Batman or Superman? It's the age-old debate, except it's so much more complicated than that. Nerd Killer Warfare every week on The Experience is your chance to debate other nerds in the questions we've all been asking for years, except we take those debates and turn them up to 11. Go to bit.ly/EXP casting or scan the QR code to be part of the show.
Hey, it's Dennis Camp. I'm the author of Bloodshot Unleashed and 20th Century Men. Issue 3 of 20th Century Men comes out this month. Issue 2 of Bloodshot Unleashed comes out at the end of the month. And I hope you'll support us and you're watching us on The Experience.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Remember to stick around after today's show as What's in the Box comes on with Jenna. So you don't want to miss out on that. Now, we were talking about The Bad Batch Season 2 that just debuted on Disney+. They dropped 2 episodes, which was nice because it was kind of a 2-parter. It was a cliffhanger. They don't always do that. Normally they don't, actually. So we got 2 episodes. The Spoils of War and the Ruins of War. And it makes a lot of sense when you watch the 2 episodes, those 2 titles. Because, we start off with the team on a mission. They're still doing missions for Sid to make money to survive. And there's some things you notice early on. The whole first season, Omeeeega kept getting in trouble and somebody would have to come rescue her. In the opening here, they're on a planet. They're trying to get this box of stuff. We really don't know what it is. It's basically a MacGuffin. So they're getting this box, and they're attacked by these crab creatures, sentient crab creatures. And they're running from them. And Omeeeega, we see her for the first time. She appears older, like a year or two has passed. She looks a little taller. Her hair is a little longer. She almost now has the Luke Skywalker from A New Hope hair. Her eyes are drawn a little smaller, which again shows that she's aged up. And while the guys are running from the crab creatures, she goes to help. And when she gets in trouble, she gets herself out of it. Where the whole first season she was getting helped out of things, she actually got helped. She helped herself out of it, and she's gotten to be a crack shot with that bow. And again, like I said, it seems like she might be force sensitive, so giving her that energy bow is kind of a nod to a lightsaber at this point without being blatantly obvious. The team, of course, when we see them, you notice their armor. Now, their armor never looked like the actual clone armor. It was like slightly grayer, looked a little different, but it was all uniformed to that team, the Clone Force 99. Now, each one of them is kind of putting on their own little flair to their uniform, showing that more of their individualism is coming out, which I think is really cool to see. They get off the island, they get back, and they go to Sid's. And Sid is this, she runs a bar, but she also gets some jobs. So she's kind of like a broker for underground deals and stuff. And they go to Sid's, and the first thing we notice is that some of the regulars are still there. They're always there. Sid is voiced by Rhea Perlman, who, of course, became famous for working in a bar on Cheers. So having her based in a bar made a lot of sense. And we noticed that there's this little droid floating around, AZI-3. And AZI-3 was actually from the season finale last year. He was a droid that worked on Kamino making clones, so that he got rescued with them as they got off the island. So now he's working at Sid's as a bartender, or as a waiter. So that's interesting. They kept him around. But then we're introduced to a new character named Fee, who is a pirate and a smuggler who's bringing information to Sid for her to work on, and for jobs that she might be able to do or send the Clone Force out on. And she's voiced by Wanda Sykes. So right there is kind of interesting. You got Wanda Sykes and Rhea Perlman, but the rest of the cast is tiny because most of them are clones, and they're all voiced by D. Bradley Baker. Omeeeega is one of the only other ones, and she's voiced by Michelle Ong. But you've got a couple other voices that pop up, like Ben Diskin is the voice of the robot, but everybody else is pretty much that's the cast. Your majority of your actor or your characters are all voiced by D. Bradley Baker because they're all clones. But he's still able to bring in different sounds to the different characters. But they find out about this gig that it involves Count Dooku. It seems that Count Dooku's palace still has all his riches in it, and the Empire is going to pick it up. And if the Clone Force 99 can get there and steal something, doesn't have to be a lot because there's a lot of stuff there, but this could give them enough money to actually get away, get freedom, go find some place away from it instead of doing these little jobs, and give Omeeeega a normal life to grow up on, which is something Hunter really wants to do. I think all of them really do. So they decide to go on this job, but it all goes haywire. Hey, Kenneth, good to see you. And I don't want to get into too much, but you really get a feel for the change in the team. We really spent more time with Wrecker and Hunter and even Crosshairs in the first season, and Omeeeega. This time we got more time with Tech and Echo and really started to differentiate between the two characters because there's a lot of similarities between them. Now, Echo is a regular clone that got experimented on and even had his hand removed and replaced with a one of those data port blades that R2D2 has, so he can tap into computers and stuff. But the characters really came across. Yeah, that's Tech, and he's brilliant and all that, and that's Echo. And they really came across similar in the first season. So the fact that they're actually spending time differentiating them and putting them off on their own, I think is really needed and is really working. We really get a difference for them, where Tech sees everything in black and white. It's A or B, it's binary, everything is binary. Echo is an actual ex-clone trooper, and he still has an affection for his former brothers and for all the stuff that went on, the Jedi and whatnot. So he looks at them as, we're hiding out and protecting Omega while we should be out there doing more to help people. So he's got this driving force for the team to do something more. Where Tech has to really kind of experience life more. He just got, he's always looked at it as, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys. And he's starting to see shades of gray. So that's changing his personality as well. But Omega overhears something that makes her think that the guys aren't doing what they should be doing because they're trying to protect her. So she becomes obsessed with trying to make this job work because she feels that they're not having the life they should be having, and wants to earn her keep and stuff. And it's also a good bonding moment between her and Echo, which again, I don't think we got any of in the first season. The two never really interacted that much. So from that standpoint, I think the season premiere was good. We got to expand on that. We get a better idea who is the big bad for the season. Let me get his name real quick. It's Vice Admiral Rampart, who, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't appear in anything other than the Bad Batch. So good chance he's not going to live by whenever this series is done. But he's kind of like most Imperial officers. He's very much into promoting himself. The Empire has always been run by fear. Palpatine had everybody afraid of him. So you wanted to look good. You wanted to do the things that would make you look good in the eyes of the Emperor. So I think a lot of things happened based on that. A lot of ambition and pushing and decisions were made, not because they personally wanted the accolades, but because they wanted them to keep them alive. They wanted them to keep them in the Emperor's good graces. So in this case, something comes up that might put Rampart in a bad light to the Emperor, and his reaction is pretty cold. It's very cold. Again, it's not one I want to spoil, but you see a side of him that he's going to be a problem for the Clone Force 99. And this will probably bring Crosshairs back into the story as well. We didn't see Crosshairs at all, who is actually had his chip removed and chose to be part of the Empire still. So yeah, he's the X factor in this. He's one of Clone Force 99, but he has stayed with the Empire while the rest of them are rebelling against it. So overall, I wasn't a huge fan of the first season. I didn't hate it, but I'm not a fan of the constant use of the bringing in the younger character, the lone wolf and cub type mentality that Dave Filoni seems to like to go to a lot. I found Omega to be very annoying in the first season. But then if you watch Clone Wars, Ahsoka was very annoying early on. and she eventually grew on you, which seems to be the other thing he likes to do, Filoni. So I think that's the plan here too. Omeeeeega wasn't quite as annoying, but she was still somewhat annoying in this one. So still in the growth arc. But I thought it was a good 2-part episode. It really showed some stuff we don't get to see in Star Wars a lot. The effect that things have on the average people. You know, we go to Dooku's original planet that he's from, where he was supposed to be helping the people. He was the count that ran the planet, basically. You know, he was a Jedi. His brother was the original count. His brother started manipulating the people and stealing from them and treating them poorly. And Dooku had to basically take him down, killed his brother, became the new count, and eventually became corrupted as well, and took from his own people to fund the activity of the Separatists. And also it kind of brings up the whole idea of when you have a dictator that participates in a war or something like that, not necessarily everybody who lives in that country or lives under that dictatorship believe the same thing. Just because they live in that country doesn't mean, or that on that planet doesn't mean they're a separatist. It means that they just were unlucky to live on that planet. And that's another issue that comes up. So overall, it's just 2 episodes. They go by quick. There's a lot of little Easter eggs, most of them referring back to the previous seasons. Not that many that reach out to the rest of the Star Wars universe. So it's not like you got to pay super close attention. But it's a good 2 episodes. Again, they need to dial Omeeeeega down a little bit. She's still a little too much of the basis for the stories. I'd like to see them focus on the other characters. They did a little better with like Tech and Echo, but they could still get a little better about it. But overall, I enjoyed it. Glad to see it back. And I'll be covering it for the rest of the... they're not small seasons. They're half-hour shows, but they're not small seasons. And this one's going to be... Yeah, we got another 14 episodes. So I won't base an entire show around it all the time as others talk about the latest episodes. So if you guys are following along, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, what you think of the Bad Batch. Again, I tried not to do many spoilers because I know it just came out on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, so maybe you guys haven't had a chance to see it, but check it out. I'm going to wrap it up here. Remember to hit the thumbs up and the like buttons and all that, and subscribe. Definitely want to subscribe, especially on YouTube, because we got that big thing coming up. And I will see you guys next week. Stick around for What's in the Box with Jenna. See you guys tomorrow or later.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.